Next up, our daily debate, and we are asking, is the future of show business genderless? I asked the question after the BRIT Music Awards last night, which featured genderless categories for the first time. The organisers insisted that gendered categories, such as British female solo artists, were to be dropped in an attempt, they said, to ensure the ceremony was representative of artists who do not identify as either male or female. However, after winning the Artist of the Year award, Adele pointedly said she was proud of being a woman and female. Cue the inevitable backlash, with some claiming Adele's words were transphobic. Well, are female categories going to make a comeback, or are they, frankly, now just history, at least insofar as the Brits are concerned? Joining us for this one, the journalist and broadcaster Sam Dowler, and with me in the studio, the editor of what was the Conservative Woman Kathy Gyngell. Thanks both for joining us. I know Kathy's been here throughout and will continue to be so. So, Sam, let's start with you. What did you make of the Brits last night?
It was a great show. I've been to the Brits many times. I used to work in the music industry myself, and it was a fantastic show. I mean, it generally always is. I mean, maybe not so much over COVID, but it was just a celebration of all things British. And I really don't think that the combining of the male and female artist awards really made much difference. I mean, I understand obviously what Adele said, but she also said that she understood why it had to change.
Where do you think the propulsion came from, Sam, to make this happen? Was it coming from the artists? Was it coming from the organisers? Was it coming from a slice of the general public?
I think it's a bit of both, actually. I mean, it comes in line with the ARIAs, which is the Australian version, and the Grammys. I mean, the Grammys ditched gender categories in 2012. So, I mean, that was a long time ago, and there was no hoo-ha about it at the time. And in fact, obviously, like, because of the fact that we're removing one category, they added 4 extra categories on top, which was alternative rock act, dance act, pop and R&B act. Both of those two were won by women, and so it's more about inclusivity. It's about just getting in line with the rest of the business, really.
Kathy Gyngell, what say you?
I think it's rather woke and rather silly and rather boring, I'm afraid. Good for Adele, and she shouldn't be made to back down on what her instinctive thing to say was that she's proud of being a woman. I'm proud of being a woman. Most people really enjoy being their sex, and they really enjoy having a different opposite sex to relate to. That's a fact of life. That's what we all still do. So we're all being made to live a bit of a lie. I don't think it particularly matters last night, but I think wokedom is becoming increasingly difficult to navigate. So I'm just wondering what's happening to the trans men and the trans women who want to be identified as trans men or trans women. Are they going to complain that it's now genderless? Surely that rather undermines the point of their argument of saying they want to, if they're a man, be regarded and treated as a woman or believed to be a woman. So this has got chaotic, illogical, silly. I just hope we all grow up and move on out of it, because I think it's very hard for people in the film and music industry to navigate. Now, we've got reverse racism going on. We've got white women directors who can't have their name on the show. This has gone beyond anything that's sort of... We just want to stick to merit and talent. God, there's plenty enough of it about in males, females, black, white, whatever. The talent is there. Let's just stick to that, judging people on their merit.
I actually think that was the point of it, because this was led by the head of... by Tom March, who is head of Polydor, and also he's the head of the Brits. And this is artist-led, to be fair, because it's Sam Smith who initially talked about this. But it's because we don't listen to music via gender. We listen to music because we enjoy it and we like the song, etc. So music in itself is pretty much genderless. And I don't think it actually really, like you said, I don't really think it makes much difference. It's about talent, and so let's make it about talent rather than the gender.
I'm allowed in at this point. Sam Dowler, on the Sam Smith point, I remember very well the first time I saw that request, and that's fine. You know, it seemed to me at the time, and I'm about to express an opinion, by the way, that Sam Smith said it's they or them, please, from now on. And, you know, people are perfectly entitled, of course, to say, please refer to me in a certain way. And then people, I think, still have a right to see the world in terms that they're comfortable with as well. And when I read a story in which a news organisation, which will remain nameless, decided to go along with the wishes of Sam Smith, I read it honestly, Sam, in good faith, and I came away confused because it was the enemy of lucid communication. And now, just in terms of the way we see the world, I was genuinely reading the article about Sam Smith, they, them, and I thought as I read it, where's the other person? Where's the other person? I was confused. So we can't look at these things in total isolation. It's not just about music. It's about how we frame our conversation with the world and each other.
Oh, no, I completely agree with that. And as your lovely guest was just saying just now, when it comes to acting, for example, the actress MJ Rodriguez, who is a trans woman, she won the Golden Globe for Best Actress last year for the drama Pose. And so, like, I mean, it is across the board. But I mean, what we need to remember is this is driven by young people. So and as I said before on different shows, you know, the pendulum has to swing further one way before it comes back into the middle. And, you know, this is, as I said, it's driven by young people. So they obviously are the future. So, I mean, it's almost like old fuddy-duddies like us will become irrelevant at some point. And
Speak for yourself, Sam. Kathy, I'm still slightly confused in this. Sam's talking there about cinematic awards that involved, I think Sam said, correct me if I'm wrong, a trans woman actress of the year. But that doesn't really get around your question, which is the Brits were saying genderless, as is their right. But actually, you're saying if you're a trans woman, where does that place you? So I'm not sure where we are. Kathy, you make
I don't think that's the trouble. It's logically totally confused. But I'm not sure. I hate this word genderless. Gender only came into the conversation, 10, 20 years ago. We used to talk about sex, you know, and it's XX, I can't, you know, an XY. I mean, it's a biological fact. You know, when I've looked at music, I have looked at music through great musicians, and I am interested when you get whether that Beethoven's a man or that the Rolling Stones were a male group. I think it's actually, you don't need to particularly talk about it, but it's such an obvious thing to be denying and to pretend it doesn't matter. It sort of is there and it's basic. So you're sort of lying about this, really. I think it's dishonest, honestly. That's my trouble with it.
I've got a trouble with the word lying. I think we're going to retract that word. Dishonest.
Not from me, you might.
Go on, Sam. What do you say?
Well, I mean, it's like, for example, they have best rock group, best band, and none of it mentions gender. I mean, obviously, like something like the Brits moving to Artist of the Year, or that's obviously very different to something like the Oscars or the Emmys. So this is why, I mean, obviously we disagree on quite a few points, but I think it is, you know, I think it has to be done by a case basis. And like if a trans woman represents as a woman and wants to be in the actress category, then that's how it goes. I mean, going on and saying how very confusing it is and people are lying, I don't think it's very helpful.
Why aren't you just saying she's genderless then?
Well,
I mean,
she's a trans
it's not
woman.
logical. There's a
a
hierarchy of victims. This is a sort of identity hierarchy of victims war, and one person's trying to outwoke the rest, and it's quite a destructive game, really. At the serious side, I don't believe it's pushed by young people. I think it's pushed by strong ideological indoctrination that comes from elsewhere. They get it in schools, they get it in universities, they get it from big tech, from Facebook. I think they're actually the pawns in this, and they don't know any better.
The world is changing, and unfortunately, you know, people like yourself are going to have to keep up because this is what
I keep
the world
up,
is
but
now.
I don't like it, and keeping up doesn't mean I have to comply.
So I'm going to intervene.
You don't have to comply. That's fine.
You know, because I'm being made to feel like an old fuddy-duddy, and I probably am. Let me make this contribution. You could argue, could you not, that this is part of a process of normalising the breakdown of what for centuries we've taken to be normality, and for the most part it doesn't matter if a few celebs want to gather in, at a gathering like the Brits and do this sort of thing. Where it becomes important, some people will say, is when you start messing with biological sex and replacing it with gender terms that leads you to a situation where you've got a trans woman a trans man in a woman-only prison, in situations in hospital where something similar arises, or you've got somebody who's been on a biological journey that leads them to compete in a woman's sport, but actually they've largely spent most of their life fueled by testosterone in a man's body. That's where it starts to matter. And by what we saw at the Brits last night, we are normalising a process that leads you to those more serious situations.
Well, obviously, those situations are few and far between, almost infinitesimal compared to the amount of people who identify as gender non-conforming. So it's almost a moot point. And I think by changing, as I said, like the Grammys have been gender-free, like Artist of the Year since 2012, and the world hasn't imploded. So I mean, I think it's the advancement of places like the music industry. As I said, I don't know how it would work in the movie industry when it comes to awards. But I mean, speaking about awards and music and movies, and then obviously bringing it back to trans people in prisons, I don't think is very helpful.
Kathy, last word to you.
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't expecting to get a last word. I don't think it's an advancement. I think it's part of a dumbing down, I'm afraid. It's intellectually sloppy. It's silly. What else can I say?
Well, I say,
I'm a fuddy-duddy, but I will be a very outspoken fuddy-duddy.
Well, given that one side was calling the other side a liar, the other one was calling old-fashioned, we kept that remarkably respectful, even though the headlines sound pretty grim. Sam and Kathy, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Indeed.